You don't have a discipline problem. You don't have an attention span problem. You have a brain chemistry problem. Because consistency is not about willpower. It's about how your brain assigns value to actions over time. And until you fix this, you'll keep starting things you never finish. Today, I'll break down the neuroscience of consistency, why your brain sabotages you after day 3, and how to fix it using real-world systems. Your brain loves novelty. That new gym plan, that new business idea, that new online course that will make you money. The dopamine spike when you start is huge. But here's a trap. Dopamine is not designed to sustain interest. It's designed to spark curiosity. Meaning, by day 3, when the novelty fades and the work gets uncomfortable, your brain defaults to chasing the next exciting thing. That's why you start 5 projects, 5 workout plans, 5 business ideas, and never finish any of them. Not because you're weak, but because your brain's reward system is untrained. Here's the neuroscience of it. Andrew Huberman explains this with a dopamine reward prediction error. This means when the effort feels bigger than the reward, your brain expects motivation crashes. Allow me to repeat. When the effort feels bigger than the reward you expect, motivation crashes. This means if you're going to work for 5 hours and make 100 shillings, motivation comes down. Meaning is the antidote to chaos. Without meaning, tasks feel unbearable. So consistency is not about discipline alone. It's about linking small, consistent actions to immediate meaning, not distant outcome. That's how you hack the brain's reward system to work for you, not against you. I have a 3-step consistency protocol you should try if you want to be able to follow through a project from start to finish. Step number 1, shrink the task to minimum viable action. You see, one of the most fundamental problems people encounter when trying to improve their lives is that they aim too high, too vaguely, and all at once. They sit in their room or their office and they say, I need to change my life. Well, of course you do. But how exactly do you propose to do that? Start a business? It sounds noble, yes, ambitious, of course, admirable even, but it's also paralyzing. And here's why. Your brain resists undefined, monumental goals. They are conceptually overwhelming. They leave too many variables open. And when you confront chaos without a clear path forward, the most likely result is anxiety and then avoidance. So what is the antidote? You shrink the task. Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because you're intelligent enough to know that complex problems are solved through incremental progress. You reduce the grand ambition to what I'd call the minimum viable action, the smallest possible step you can take towards your goal without excuses, without delay. So don't say I want to launch a business, but I want to write 1 LinkedIn post today. I want to become fit, but I want to do 1 push-up every day. Not fix my relationship, but I want to be sending 1 kind text to my family every single day. If it takes more than 2 minutes to start, it's too big. Not forever, but for now. Because progress is not made by wrestling dragons in the dark. It's made by confronting the little snake under your bed. And when you've managed that, you'll be a bit stronger. Strong enough to face something slightly larger tomorrow. And there's wisdom in that. Because competence, like all virtues, is hierarchical. You don't begin at the top. You start by ordering your desk, then your room, then your schedule, then your habits. And if you do that reliably, the confidence that comes from small, successful, visible actions compounds. And what looked impossible a month ago becomes manageable because you are no longer the same person who first set out to do it. So stop aiming for the mountain if you haven't learned to climb the hill. Shrink the task, take the step, and watch as order emerges from chaos, 1 tiny voluntary action at a time. The second step is what I call attach immediate reward. Don't wait for big wins. You see, one of the most tragic mistakes people make in pursuit of improvement is that they postpone gratification indefinitely. They tell themselves, I'll be happy when I write the book, or I'll be happy when I make XYZ amount of money, or I'll relax when I've built the company, or I'll celebrate when I've lost 20 kilos into my workout. And the problem with that is twofold. First, it's unsustainable. Your nervous system is not designed to tolerate endless struggle without reinforcement. And second, it trains you to associate your most meaningful ambitions with nothing but pain, deprivation, and sacrifice. And if you do that long enough, what happens is you quit. Not because you're weak, again I repeat, but because you are biologically conditioned to avoid suffering without reward. So what's the better strategy? You attach immediate, tangible, appropriate rewards to your efforts. Again, you attach immediate, tangible, appropriate rewards. Not to the outcome, not to the distant, glittering finish line, but to the process itself. For example, if you do 5 push-ups every morning, you can watch 1 episode of your favorite show. Or if you have 20 minutes of focused writing every day, you can have a guilty-free nap in the evening or in the afternoon. If you have completed a to-do list today, you can then go and maybe have ice cream. It's profoundly effective because it leverages the dopaminergic system of the brain, the same system that keeps you chasing status updates, junk food, and quick fixes. But instead of associating dopamine with destructive habits, you pair it with discipline. Over time, what you're doing is training your brain to link consistency with pleasure and not pain. Work becomes tolerable, then enjoyable, then meaningful, and eventually, even the work becomes the reward in itself. And is a deeper truth. Life is lived in the process, not in the outcomes. If you cannot find small joys along the way, you'll resent the path, and a path resented is a path abandoned. So don't wait for the big win. Create small, appropriate, honest rewards today, and let those tiny satisfactions pull you forward through the grind towards something better. That's how you make the undeniable and the unbearable bearable, and eventually meaningful. The last step is what we call track streaks visibly. Track progress visibly. You see, human beings are not made to operate in abstraction. We are creatures built for narrative, for patterns, for structure. And one of the most powerful psychological levers you have at your disposal is visible, tangible evidence of your competence stacking up over time. Now, your brain is wired to respond to progress. Not hypothetical progress, not imagined outcome either, but real, measurable, incremental improvements. And here's why it matters. When you engage in a meaningful task, whether it's writing, learning a new skill, or going to the gym, you initiate a feedback loop. Small accomplishments, small dopamine hits, small increase in perceived competence. That's not trivial. That's the biological underpinning of motivation itself. The mistake people make is assuming that motivation precedes action, but it doesn't. Action produces motivation. And if you make those actions visible, you're creating an ongoing dialogue between your current self and your potential future. That's why something as simple as tracking progress visibly matters. Put a sticky note on your wall. Use an app if that's your medium. It doesn't matter what you use. What matters is that you can see something, or you can see some progress. Because when you can see it, you're making the abstract concrete. You are imposing order into chaos, as I have been saying in my videos. And it does something else too. It forces you to confront yourself. When you see an unbroken chain of success, it strengthens your identity as a competent, reliable individual. When you break the chain, you're forced to ask why. And if you're honest, and you should be, you'll realize that you either allowed yourself to fall into disorder, or you did not take your own potential seriously. So you get back on track, not out of guilt, but out of respect for the person you're capable of becoming. And that is the point of tracking progress visibly. It's a humble daily act of responsibility, a conversation between the version of you that acts now and the version of you that might one day be worthy of the future you secretly desired. Order your life in the small things, and the larger things begin to align. And if you think that's trivial, you have no idea how much of your suffering is self-inflicted simply because you refuse to track your own progress. So start today, track it visibly, and watch what happens to your confidence and your competence. Aim at one good thing, no matter how small, and do it well. And when you can see it, you can believe it. And when you can believe it, you can become it. When I first started building content businesses, I'd create for 3 days straight, then ghost for weeks. Not because I did not care, but because my brain was chasing dopamine spikes, not long-term vision. The day I started shrinking my task to 15-minute sprints, rewarding myself with cold showers and naps after wins, and tracking my progress visually, everything changed. In less than 90 days, I produced more content than and landed amazing clients I love working with. This week, I want to do this. Pick one habit you keep dropping. Apply the 3-step protocol. Shrink it, number 1. Reward it, number 2. And finally, track it. Shrink, reward, track it. Do it for 7 days. Consistency is not about talent or motivation or genetics. It's about brain chemistry. If you enjoyed this conversation and you'd want a friend of yours to benefit from this conversation, kindly share this video with them, and let's meet in our next conversation. Bye.